So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hazbin Hotel. So let's start the series. Scorching, searing ache that seemed to pierce his own being and transcend his skin. Second was confusion. A haphazard scattering of shattered memories, like fragments of a broken mirror, reflecting distorted images of a life he couldn't quite recall. He opened his eyes to find crimson skies speckled with black lightning. With every frantic breath, the sulfur and ash-tasting air burned his lungs. He lay in a crater of broken obsidian, his body twisted into a fetal position as if he had been dropped from an incomprehensible height. "Where am I?" the voice asks. The sound that emerged from his mouth was both familiar and strange. It sounded raspier than he remembered and had an echo that seemed to originate from multiple locations simultaneously. He saw his reflection in a nearby puddle of some viscous, dark liquid, he said, forcing himself to kneel. The face staring back at him was not human. 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek had turned into actual grooves, and slitted crimson eyes glowed beneath a wild mane of golden hair that was now streaked with fox-red highlights. A name emerged from the depths of his fractured memory, Nar. I'm Nar's Waki. His body moved with unfamiliar power, muscles coiled with energy he didn't recognize, and when he reached to touch his face, he saw that his skin had taken on a subtle golden tan hue with an unnatural sheen. When he stood fully, Nar realized he was. A scream pierced the oppressive atmosphere, bringing to his attention a distant, jagged skyline dominated by twisted spires and pulsating crimson lights, and without conscious thought, his body moved, leaping with inhuman strength toward the sound of distress. Nar landed atop a crumbling structure overlooking a scene of chaos below. He was taller than he remembered, his body more massive, the ragged remnants of what might have been orange and black clothing barely covering his changed body. "Those essences you collected belong to our territory," snarled the biggest assailant, a massive creature with several arms that ended in rusted swords, with nowhere left to flee. With the remains of what may have been a building, Olga surrounded a smaller demon with a single horn sticking out of her forehead and a pale blue complexion. The smaller demon cowed as her tormentors closed in. "Hand them over, and we might let you keep your eyes." "I found them abandoned after the last extermination," Naruto protested, his voice shaking. Something about the imbalance of power. The predatory glee in the attacker's eyes ignited Naruto's chest, and before he could understand why, his body moved instinctively, dropping between the cowering demon and her attackers, landing in a crouch that cracked the ground beneath his feet, and then slowly rising to face the surprised aggressors with a calm that belied the storm building inside him. "Doesn't seem like a fair fight to me." The lead demon's voice carried a dangerous edge, and the demon got over his surprise quickly, replacing it with anger. "Another new arrival, thinking he's something special. Hell chews up and spits out thousands like you every day, newcomer." Nar tilted his head, bits of combat knowledge leaking through his shattered memory. "Is that so?" The behemoth launched itself. "Perhaps you ought to teach me a lesson then." The next step appeared unimaginable to the onlookers as Naruto's body appeared to flicker and vanish, then reappear behind the charging demon with casual ease. "Too slow," he muttered, as his hand moved through strange but deeply ingrained motions. Energy, not quite chakra as he used to know it, but something wilder and more primal, gathered in his palm, creating a spiraling sphere of crimson and golden light. Rasengan, the name suddenly came to his lips as he. Naruto stood, examining his hand where the energy had formed. It felt both familiar and foreign, like meeting an old friend who had undergone a radical transformation. The power responded differently than he had expected. He slammed the technique into the demon's bare back, sending the monster hurtling forward, his body spinning violently before crashing through a number of dilapidated structures. The other 2 attackers stared in shock before self-preservation took over, and they fled without hesitation, leaving their leader behind. "No newly formed demon has that kind of power." Nar repeated the words, sounding incorrectly. What are you talking about? Where is this place? The smaller demon's expression changed from strange to bewildered. You really don't know. This is hell. You're in the third circle. You're wilder and hungrier, but still answering his call. How did you do that? The area has become somewhat of a contested borderland since the last territorial war. Hell. Nar's mind reeled, fragmented memories flashed. A grave battle. Pain. A final sacrifice. Darkness. I died. Most of us did. Yeah, she shrugged. The motion emphasized her small stature. I'm Nixie, by the way. I've been here about 30 years, give or take. Time gets funny down here. Nar struggled to process this information. Hell wasn't what he might have anticipated. He was surrounded by a destroyed cityscape in an endless crimson twilight, and the background sounds were broken by distant explosions and screaming. What happens now? He asked, more to himself than to Nixie. Now you survive, or don't? She glanced in the direction where the monster had disappeared, but I have a feeling you might be different. Her statement seemed to cause pain. Most NWC comers end up territory bound or consumed within their first century. Nar, we are partners. From the depths of his shattered memory, the voice resounded. Powerful and familiar, Naruto exclaimed as his eyesight dimmed and he became confused. An image of a huge fox with 9 tails, eyes blazing with anger and something more profound, overtook him, and he dropped to one knee, grasping his head. Loneliness, comprehension, the blending and splitting of their mind, a connection created over years of hardship and personal development. You okay? Nixie asked. Maintaining a safe distance. Nar stood up and examined him with new determination. I remembered something. Someone important? She said. I need to understand what's happened to me. Well, you've made quite an entrance. Nixie gestured to the damage his single attack had inflicted, which everyone in the circle would soon be aware of. Power is not disregarded here. Sensing that this was only the beginning, Nar nodded. I need somewhere to ponder and plan. Nixie hesitated, then sighed. I know a deserted place, the rickety architecture of which keeps most monsters away. Been the place I've spent years hiding. I suppose I owe you for the save. As they traveled across the Hell's Cape, Nar observed the peculiar surroundings. Buildings occasionally defied the rules of physics by appearing to breathe or bleed. The chaotic streets were inhabited by demons of all shapes and sizes, some humanoid and others indefinable. Violence occasionally occurred. Territorial disputes, personal grievances, or simply the powerful prey on the weak. The social hierarchy soon became apparent. Smaller, weaker demons were repelled by larger ones. Every now and then, someone with obvious authority passed through, encircled by sycophants and guards, and their impact was palpable. Observing his curiosity, Nixie explained, those are mid-tier overlords. Every circle has influential people. The real heavyweights have an effect on everything, even though they don't often seem this low. Naruto's temporary residence proved to be a building that has been hollowed out and is gently balanced between 2 larger ones. Nixie has created a surprisingly comfortable environment by repurposing items. Not much, but it's safe, she replied. The image that emerged showed a chaotic Darwinian society where power ruled everything. Nar spent hours questioning Nixie about the hierarchy, structure, and regulations of Hell, stating things like, most demons can't squeeze through the entrance without bringing the whole thing down. Existence depended on territory. These collaborations were, at most, transient. And these exterminations? He said, the thought unsettling. Angels come down once a year to cull the population. Nixie shuddered. They are brutal and effective. They don't spare anyone who gets in their way. Waiting out and hiding deep is the best line of action. Nixie slept curled up in a corner that night, while Naruto sat cross-legged and attempted to meditate. The familiar activity helped him concentrate. Nevertheless, the constant clamor of Hell proved it to be genuine. In this semi-meditative state, where peace was unachievable, he searched his subconscious for solutions among the shards of recollection. He entered a bizarre mental environment. The flooded corridors he vaguely remembered were gone, replaced by a vast crimson desert under a black sky speckled with floating fragments like shattered glass. Each piece has a memory. Blonde and strong, she hid her love for him and dubbed him a brat. An arrogant white-haired man giving him instructions. Eyes. He was devastated by the pink-haired girl's smile. A boy with dark hair who was driven to the edge by competition. Fragments of disputes, triumphs, failures, and friendships that are all fragmented and lack context. In the center of this mental landscape stood a great, ornate gate, half melted, half twisted, half immersed in nothing. Behind it, all that was seen was darkness, as though something significant and ancient had disappeared. He thought of the term, Nine Beast, at once. Did we not have a partnership? What happened with you? Beyond the fence, there was no answer, but the feeling of absence persisted. Nar emerged from her meditation with a gasp. The fissures in the ceiling let in the red light of morning. His body became increasingly conscious of the strange energy that was flowing through him. Like he would with chakra, he tried to channel it experimentally. The response was excellent and quick. Power surged through chakra circuits in a way he had never seen before. It was almost jovial in its intensity. When he tried to develop a simple clone technique, the energy cold and split, creating perfect replicas that weighed more than his earlier shadow clones. What the devil? When Nixie awoke, the same Nudos were experimenting with energy manipulation. How are you going about doing that? Nar waved the clones away, explaining that it's an old technique that works differently in this case. You're not like other newcomers, she remarked calmly. Your energy signature is peculiar. Layered in some way. Before Nuda responded, the ground trembled. From outside came screams and the sounds of destruction. What's happening? He asked as he got closer to the narrow exit. It was a territorial issue, Nixie said, gathering her few possessions with practiced quickness. It happens often. First, we should get going. The ceiling shattered as a massive object moved overhead. Nar grabbed Nixie and ran out the door before the building fell. Outside, devils ran in all directions in fear of an approaching force. A device. The monstrosity rumbled through the district, its tank-like treads crushing smaller structures. Ion, a serpentine devil with a single evil eye and Victorian attire, perched atop the contract. Attention, worthless denizens! The snake yelled over a loudspeaker, and Nar stared in fury as egg-shaped minions raced out of the tank, collecting things and harassing fleeing demons. This territory now belongs to Serpentius. Surrender your essences and possessions or face annihilation. As if that clarified everything, Nixie remarked. It's hell. Nerid secretly disapproved of this idea. Memories of his own early years came flooding back. Isolation being targeted by those stronger. We should run, Nixie said. Nar saw an egg minion corner a childish demon and remarked. Penis isn't the strongest overlord, but he has numbers and firepower. And everyone just lets him take whatever he wants. Are you insane? You can't challenge an overlord on your first day. Nixie growled, and Nar flashed her a savage smile that revealed his sharpened teeth. He stepped directly into the path of the mechanical monstrosity, saying, Watch me. He stopped when he was the only person standing in the cleared roadway. The tank came to a stop, its maker looking down with a curious chuckle. Well, a demonstration volunteer murmured, and Penis grinned, his hood expanding with delight. This is the end of it. How handy! The serpent's laughter increased in volume. Oh my, a heroic type! How charming! Nuda's voice carried strangely as he yelled. I haven't seen one of you in decades. Leave these people alone. His face hardened. They never last long. Weapons appeared from the tank's front, training on Nuda's position, and the egg minions gathered to observe the approaching Phineas's single eye widened to its maximum width as he stared in disbelief at the perfect replicas of Naruto that surrounded the tank on all sides of the street. "What the how are you?" "Beg for mercy, and I might keep you as an entertaining pet," Phineas remarked, clearly confused by the newcomer's composed manner. The real Naruto leaped onto the main deck of the tank, facing Penis. The serpent's shock turned to rage, his body coiling defensively, while energy weapons destroyed clones in smoke explosions. But for every clone destroyed, others advanced, leaping onto the machine with coordinated precision, egg minions scrambling to repel the attack, overwhelmed by the sheer number of opponents. "Are you aware of my identity?" "I'm giving you one chance," Naruto said, his voice eerily calm as crimson energy flickered around his free hand. Nar moved with blinding speed, disarming the Overlord before he could fire. "Someone who preys on the weak because he's afraid of facing the strong." Penis recoiled, then lunged with surprising quickness, his fangs dripping venom. Nero sidestepped, grabbing the serpent behind the head with one hand. As Naruto's energy-cloaked fist slammed into the tank's control panel, easily piercing metal and circuitry, Penis' tirade was cut short. "That was a warning shot," he said. "Next time it goes through you." Nar locked eyes with the suddenly anxious Overlord, and Naruto tossed Penis off the tank with a flick of his wrist. "Leave this territory and don't come back. Unhand me, you unimportant one." As the last of Naruto's clones scattered, the remaining egg minions hurried to their boss, assisting him in retreating while glaring fearfully back at the golden-haired demon who had so easily destroyed their operation. "This isn't over," Penis called as he slithered away. "I'll remember you." Demons cautiously emerged from hiding places, staring in disbelief at their unexpected savior. One brave soul, a gaunt demon with moth-like features, stepped forward, and the crowd murmured, keeping a respectful distance. "Who are you?" he asked, his wings twitching nervously. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" she asked. Naruto shrugged, the battle adrenaline fading. "You've stopped a bully. You've painted a target on your back," she corrected, likely starting a power struggle. Though radical and dangerous in a world characterized by predatory hierarchy, his statement, "I don't know everything about this place yet, but I know I won't stand by while the strong prey on the weak." Something in his words, or perhaps the power he displayed, resonated with the gathered demons. "What happens now?" asked another resident, a squad creature with. The consequences of Naruto's actions rippled across the complex social ecology of Hell over the course of the following few weeks. Nixie became Naruto's reluctant advisor. Demons who had lived in constant fear were drawn to the arrangement, offering skills and information in exchange for safety. The territory he had claimed from Pentis became an odd anomaly, a sector where strength was used to protect rather than dominate. After viewing the destroyed district, Nar made the decision. "We rebuild together. You're creating something dangerous. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who follows you," she cautioned him one evening as they surveyed their growing community from a rooftop. "How is safety dangerous?" Naruto questioned, as locals fix cooperative buildings below. "Because it gives people hope. And hope is the krillest thing in Hell," she replied quietly. Naruto frowned. Another piece of recollection coming to the surface. Standing in front of a village. That night, Naruto dreamed of the nine-tailed fox, Nine Beast, and they stood together in a huge area that was neither the sewer of his childhood mindscape nor the shattered desert of his current psyche. He chose to bear the burden of other people's optimism. He retorted that hope isn't harsh. Even in Hell, existence is meaningless without it. Nixie had no answer to this, but her look suggested she remained unconvinced. The fox remarked, "We were always stubborn, asterisk. Massive tails swaying lazily. Even death and damnation haven't changed that Nine Beast." And Nar groped for his former lover, saying, "What happened to us? Why am I here?" The fox's eyes carried an unexpected kindness. "Your memories will return in time, Kit. For now, know this," he said. My power feels different because it's partly yours. The energy you have today is a unique mixture of demonic essence and chakra, not a pure either one. The 9 beast forms started to vanish. Just like you changed our world, you're already changing this one. Take caution. Hell has rules that I don't entirely fathom. Wait, an AR called as the fox vanished. Don't leave. Screams and the pungent odor of smoke woke him. The skies seemed brighter than normal outside his makeshift shelter, illuminating people moving across the neighborhood with predatory intent. One of Boss's lookouts, Screech, a demon who resembled a bat, landed gasping on the ledge. Before the report was completed, an AR was in motion, gathering energy as he jumped to a vantage position and saying, "We've got trouble. Multiple gangs hitting us from all sides." As Nixie joined him, he demanded, "Who's leading them?" At least 50 demons of various types had surrounded their territory, systematically destroying outer structures and corralling residents. "Called in favors," she explained grimly, "because those are enforcers from at least 3 different overlords. They're making an example of us," Nixie said. "They're herding everyone toward the central square. Why not just destroy everything? They want your followers to witness your defeat." And AR nodded. "A plan is taking shape. Gather everyone who can fight. The rest should use the tunnel system we've been. Find their leaders," NAR said, creating a shadow clone as Nixie departed. Hehai MLF headed directly for the most densely populated area of attackers, and the battle that followed would later be recounted throughout Hell's circles as the maelstrom emerged. The clone nodded and disappeared into the chaos. NAR then made another hand sign, creating dozens of clones that dispersed to strategic positions. When NAR confronted the first lieutenant, a massive demon with a rhinoceros-like horn, the difference in their power was immediately apparent. The lieutenant charged, horn lowered to impale, only to MET an uppercut enhanced with swirling crimson energy that launched him through multiple buildings. His clones coordinated with uncanny precision to evacuate civilians while methodically dismantling the attacking force. Abilities fared no better. When she attempted to trap Nerdin in illusion, something inside him, a residual effect of housing the 9 tails, shattered her mental attack and reflected it back, leaving her catatonic. As the battle progressed, Nudu sensed something changing within him. Every victory, every moment defending others, seemed to feed the strange energy coursing through his body. His eyes glowed brighter, his claws lengthened, his features grew more pronounced, a ghostly outline of a fox-like. In a flash of crimson, NAR appeared before the serpent overlord, who flinched in shock. What are you becoming?" Peneus hissed, his voice full of genuine fear, and NAR looked down at his hands now. The transformation was not unnoticed, as attacking demons started to retreat, their previous confidence replaced by terror. NAR sensed the true orchestrator of the attack, Penchus himself, trying to escape from a command position several blocks away, through his clone network. "I'm not entirely sure, but I know what I stand for," he answered, grasping the snake by the throat and effortlessly raising him. "Spread the word," he continued, encircling Ed with visual energy that resembled clawed gauntlets. "This area is safeguarded. Anyone who threatens my people answers to me." Peneus choked out. "Your people are just wretched souls. Worthless fodder. Everyone has worth, even here, even you," Nurda said, his grip becoming a little tighter. Peneus was struck deeply, and for a brief moment, ancient memories of his human life, of long-abandoned ideals, flickered across his consciousness. "You won't last, though with less conviction. Stronger overlords will come. The annual extermination will devastate you. Then, we'll face those challenges together," said NAR, releasing him. "Now go and remember what happened here." "They're calling you the Maelstrom King," Nixie told him later as they organized recovery. Their territory had been severely damaged, but the evacuation and defense networks they had set up had kept casualties to a minimum. More significantly, however, something had changed in the attitude of his followers, who no longer viewed him with gratitude or cautious hope, but with reverence, as if they were witnessing the emergence of something unprecedented in Hell's hierarchy. Efforts. As the title swept through all the circles, Nar frowned and said, "I'm not a king." "Maybe not by choice," she retorted. "But power dictates reality here. And what you did today, no ordinary demon could have managed it." That evening, a slender, female demon with pink and white fur unexpectedly appeared at their boundaries, dressed in an ostentatious outfit that seemed to go against Hell's general aesthetic. "Well, well, well," the rookie declared theatrically. "I'm here on business tonight, but boss sent me to check out the new player causing waves," said porn star extraordinaire Angel Dust, introducing himself in a suggestive pose. "Your boss, Valentino," replied Angel, casually examining his gloved fingers. Nudus sensed power beneath the visitor's frivolous demeanor. "I must say, sweetheart, you know how to make an entrance. So, you're the one generating all the fuss. Who are you?" The news of your small revolution has captured his attention, among other things. Nudus stiffened, braced for another altercation, but Angel waved dismissively. "Calm down, Blondie. You're not what I expected," the spider demon said, circling Nerda and assessing Lai. If Val wanted trouble, he would have sent his enforcers, not his star talent. In order to make up for something, the majority of power guys down here are incredibly ugly. As though it tasted strange, he said, "You're almost wholesome. What does Valentino want?" Nar asked. Angel shrugged. "Information for now. Val likes to know the players before making moves." His expression briefly became serious. "What are you doing here?" "The whole protection racket with a heart of gold. Stick. It's going to attract attention from circles way above this one." "Is that a threat?" "An observation. Honey. Some of us have been in the game long enough to see how it plays out, so be careful who you trust. Even down here, idealism is a commodity, and some will pay anything." Seeing Hell's crimson lightning split across the eternally twilight sky that night, while Nerdus sat alone atop the highest structure in his domain, his actions had brought attention to Hell's power structure, attention that would eventually crystallize into either control or destruction. Angel walked away with that cryptic warning, blowing a kiss over his shoulder. "See you around, Foxy. I'm excited to see how your career develops." Alliance offers or attempts at elimination, but more concerningly, the energy inside him kept changing, reorganizing his body, sharpening his senses, and drawing him closer to this world every hour. The demonic elements of his new form no longer felt alien, but rather more natural, an evolution rather than a corruption. Suddenly, a pain shot through his head, bringing with it another piece of memory. In front of a man in a mask who claimed to be a Mochiha, the Nine Tails were taken forcibly from. And Nar gasped as the memory faded before it ended. Every piece of recovered material gave Nar a better understanding of who he had been, how he had died, and why he had ended up in Hell, but the last moments, how he had died, and why he had gone to Hell remained frustratingly obscured. His body felt life slipping away, an asterisk appeared, a blond man appeared, familiar but different, his father somehow sacrificing himself again, the fox returned, their chakras merging more completely than before, a final struggle against the goddess. He insisted. "My past shaped who I am, who I choose to be." She sat beside him, gazing out at the Hell's Cape. "Does it matter? Most demons never remember their human lives completely. Maybe that's mercy." Even here, Nixie studied him with uncharacteristic gentleness. "You know, most demons who are etain idealism lose it within their first decade here. The system grinds it. But you," she hesitated. "There's something different about your soul. Like it was tempered by something powerful before you ever arrived. I had a partner once, someone who saw the best and worst in me, and we changed each other." Before Nixie could react, a tremor shook the building, and residents below pointed skyward in fear. A tear had appeared against the crimson sky, a vertical slice of brilliant white light that hurt. From this rift came a figure that radiated cold power, humanoid in shape but clearly not human, with many wings and a face obscured by radiant light. "Angel," Nixie whispered, her voice full of terror, "but it's not time for annihilation." The celestial being moved slowly toward their territory, sending shockwaves through the air with each wing beat, and the demons fled in fear, knowing that heaven's enforcers were lethal. Naruto stood, instinctively telling him to defend. The angel halted several hundred feet above the ground, watching, and then, to everyone's surprise, it spoke, its voice harmonic and multilayered, neither male nor female, its gaze seeming to go straight into Naruto's being, examining the unique composition of his soul. Anomaly detected. Classification: hybrid essence, origin unknown. Energy gathered around him, the ghostly outline of a foxtail becoming more substantial. The Maelstrom King rises. Without saying anything further, the angel swiftly rose and vanished into the rift, which closed behind it. The only sound to disturb the calm was the constant clamor of hell outside their bounds. "What was that about?" When Nero finally inquired, Nixie's expression shifted from one of terror to one of wonder. She spoke softly. "The prophecy of 9 kings is an ancient prediction about hell's future upheaval. Most dismissed it as mythological nonsense, but it speaks of a monarch born of 2 realms, whose presence signals the 9 rings transformation, a whirlwind that neither heaven nor hell can control." Uncertain of how to respond, Nar took in the information. The weight of day Tiny had followed him even into damnation. News of the angel's appearance and declaration appeared to travel through hell's communication networks at a never-before-seen rate, and by the following day, Reaper escadivs from different factions had set up shop at the limits of Naruto's realm, with some promising assistance and others standing guard with open hostility, all waiting for the next phase in the apparently ancient prophecy's realization. "What do we do now?" Nixie asked as they observed the gathering forces from their command center, a converted administrative building in the middle of the area. Nar thought about it, feeling the burden of the duty he had willingly taken on. The future was still unclear, his memories were still jumbled. However, as he spoke, the energy within him pulsed with affirmation, and the ghostly outline of a second story briefly appeared behind him. His purpose had crystallized to Arch those who were unable to defend themselves, to bring some semblance of peace to a world characterized by conflict, and to find out why fate had put him in this situation. "We build," he concluded. "Finally, we strengthen our defenses, expand our community, and prepare for whatever comes next. If there's one thing I remember clearly, it's that I never break my word. I promised these people protection, and I intend to deliver, no matter who stands against us." In the highest circle of hell, a slender figure wearing a dress with an apple motif watched recorded footage of the angelic encounter. "Then let them come," Nar said, his familiar determination hardening his features. Her fair locks framed her helper, a one-eyed, gray-skinned demon with a protective demeanor, frowned at the screen. "Charlie, should we be worried? It is unprecedented for an angel to emerge outside of extermination time." Charlie grinned and said, "Oh, I'm definitely concerned, Veiji. Not the way you think, though." She tapped her perfectly manicured nails against her desk and murmured, "The Maelstrom King? How intriguing." Naruto's walkie stood in the heart of gathering forces, a whirlwind of potential that threatened to restructure the very foundations of damnation itself, as various powers throughout Hell's hierarchy positioned themselves for the impending clash. Excitement shone in her eyes. Veiji questioned doubtfully, "This could change everything for your hotel project." Charlie corrected, "For all of Hell," and stood resolutely. "We need to meet this Naruto Uzumaki immediately." There was no room for the Library of Damned Knowledge in H. Geographically speaking, ELL is in the 4th circle, yet it is reachable from all 9 via covert entrances that are only known to those with enough influence or power. The shelves within were longer than reasonable, and they included ancient and modern texts, many of which were written in languages that no living person could recall. Charlie Magna. "This is pointless," Vajai muttered. Fo, lowing close behind with a ghostly light from floating lanterns that illuminated the otherwise oppressive darkness between towering shelves. Princess of Hell and sole heir to Lucifer's throne, she moved through the stacks with practiced familiarity, her blonde hair catching the ghostly light of floating lanterns that illuminated the otherwise oppressive darkness between towering shelves. Stack of already rejected volumes. Her lone eye examined the surrounding shadows suspiciously. We've been here for hours, and these prophecy books are all cryptic nonsense. Charlie corrected without breaking stride. Deliberately obscured. Dad always insisted that prophecies are written unclearly because clarity invites interference. Besides, when was the last time an angel appeared outside of a book? Even so, this Maelstrom King could be anyone. Hell is full of power-hungry upstarts with delusions of grandeur. Charlie opened the throbbing book, wincing a little as it released a sigh like a dying breath. Not like this one. According to the reports, he's different, establishing territory without demanding tribute, protecting weaker demons instead of exploiting them. Vajai couldn't argue with that logic. The incident had sent ripples of anxiety through every circle of hell. Charlie turned the book so Vajai could see the ancient drawing, a figure surrounded by swirling energy with fox-like features and multiple tails that precisely matched the eyewitness descriptions. Vajai pointed out that this could mean anything, though her skepticism wavered at Charlie's enthusiasm. The maelstrom shall rise in the 9th age of torment when the nine-tailed beast merges with the sun-crowned vessel. Charlie's excitement grew as she turned more pages. There's more. Neither angel nor demon shall hold dominion over the Maelstrom King, for his essence transcends the great division. And here, through him, redemption's path shall be illuminated in realms where light was thought extinguished. She looked up, her eyes wide. Vajai, don't you see? This could be related to my rehabilitation project. All right, I acknowledge that's surprisingly specific. Fine, but we're taking precautions. Otherwise, it might be dangerous. Prophecies aren't exactly known for happy endings. Charlie, we have to meet him, Charlie declared, closing the book decisively. If there's even a chance this connects to the hotel's mission, we can't ignore it. Vag recognized the deer meme. Ned said of Charlie's jaw, an expression directly inherited from her father that meant further argument was futile. That's why I love you, without protection, Charlie remarked with a cheeky smile as she flung her arms around Vajai. But perhaps we should watch first, get a sense of who we're dealing with before making a royal appearance, she said. Vajai nodded, smiling a little. Perhaps you have been paying attention to my security briefings after all. As they prepared to exit the library, either of them noticed the shadow that separated from A. My, Alistair murmured, his eternal smile widening as he studied the passages. The shadow paused at the section Charlie had been studying, a glowing monol appearing to examine the prophetic book they had left behind. The shadow moved between shelves in the surrounding stack with an unnatural fluidity, and his shadow companion chittered happily next to him. How absolutely fascinating! So much catastrophic hype from a new player entering our small game. Oh, hush now, he said. After the Angel's unexpected visit 3 weeks ago, Nuda's territory had undergone a significant transformation. What had begun as a group of desperate immigrants in a rundown neighborhood had transformed into a well-organized community that covered several third circle sectors. There's no need for concern. Eventually, his voice was distorted and his eyes narrowed. Every king needs a proper welcome to court. The wall, a massive barrier constructed by residents with building skills and Nuda's shadow clones, was the most impressive. Unlike other territorial boundaries in Hell, which typically featured graphic warnings and menacing spikes, this wall was built for defense rather than intimidation, and NAR surveyed from atop it. Demons traded goods in regular markets on debris-free streets without fear of being eaten. As he channeled energy, 2 spectral tails now appeared behind him, and there were rumors that a third was forming. Nixie landed lightly next to him and asked, admiring your domain. She had taken on a leading role in the community, and her once shy demeanor had changed into quiet confidence. His appearance had been changing, both his territory and the chaotic hellscape outside. His hair was longer today, and his red streaks were more noticeable. Organization. Not a realm. Automatically, though less firmly than before, Naruto corrected. The weight of leadership had fallen upon him, bringing with it memories of similar responsibilities from his former life. Nixie pointed to the flurry of activity below, where demons of all kinds worked together in unexpected harmony, and told them so. When you're not looking, they've started referring to this location as Maelstrom Haven. NAR couldn't help but smile. They can call as long as they feel safe. The boldness of our neighbors is growing. Mammon's warriors followed Nixie's gaze as he looked toward the horizon, where the shapes of strange buildings had appeared overnight. We simply find ourselves in their path. Have they taken any aggressive actions? Their scouts have started testing our outer defenses, but not yet. Nixie fluttered her wings uneasily. Mammon's focus is acquisition. He gathers territories akin to awards. NAR nodded thoughtfully. Through astute alliances and occasional displays of power, they had successfully repelled most opportunistic attacks. The upstart province would eventually be judged worth the effort to conquer by a powerful master. He decided to expedite volunteer defense corps training and double patrols along that route. Everyone should be able to defend themselves, at the very least. Naruto closed his eyes and stretched his senses as Nixie departed to deliver the orders. I'll proceed by cloning. NAR made a shout out of curiosity rather than worry. He was able to recognize the unique energy fingerprints of demons in his domain because his awareness expanded like an invisible net. The feeling had a similar function to the chakra sense he vaguely remembered, but it wasn't exactly the same. He caught a glimpse of an unusual nerg. 2 signatures are moving covertly along the eastern border. They weren't antagonistic. Indeed, but certainly not locals. Vajai stayed alert and kept her crossbow ready. It is impressive, she reluctantly admitted. Most territorial expansions in Hell simply result in new management taking advantage of the same. Charlie muttered. This is incredible. As he looked through specialized binoculars from their secret observation spot on an abandoned structure just outside Naruto's domain. Look at how well organized everything is. And in those greenhouse buildings, real agriculture is taking place. Charlie continued her excited comments, saying, They have schools, Vajai, real schools. How recently have you witnessed devils willingly teaching one another? And look at those communal kitchens. The food isn't causing any arguments. She adjusted her binoculars. Vajai admitted that it is rare, but we still don't know if this Naruto persona is truly interested in helping others or just building a power base in a different way than most overlords. There's only one way to. Charlie lowered the binoculars to find out, her expression changing to one of resolve, and a male voice from behind them concluded. We need to speak to me directly. The 2 women turned around, and Vajai immediately positioned herself between him and the intruder with a crossbow aimed at Charlie's heart. NAR waited idly at the rooftop access door, her arms folded and her posture non-threatening, his demonic features more obvious up close than the stories had suggested, but his expression had a disarming genuineness to it. Hatred. How did you find us? Vajai demanded without lowering her gun. Naruto explained simply. I sensed your energy signatures. Since you were only curious and not hostile, I chose to introduce myself rather than send security. His fox-like eyes flashed with recognition as he turned to face Charlie. You are important. Your energy signature seems basic and outdated. Charlie stepped forward despite Bag's protective arm. I'm Charlie Magna, Lucifer and Lilith's daughter. She held out her hand in a signature gesture. Friendliness. And this is my girlfriend and security chief, Vajai. Nbar Buto immediately accepted the handshake, though his eyebrows raised a little at the introduction. The Princess of Hell is spying on my region. I must be doing something very wrong or right. Charlie immediately reassured him that everything was fine, saying, In fact, we've heard amazing things about what you're constructing here. By Hell's standards, it's very groundbreaking. Vajai reluctantly dropped her crossbow. She kept everything ready, but we were gathering information before making official contact. Smart, Nar said, nodding respectfully to Vajai. I would do the same if I were in your shoes. He indicated the area beneath them. Passage, I swear. Charlie smiled. Charlie, we adore that. Vajai objected. Charlie assured her that everything was fine. I feel positive about this. She turned back to Naruto with genuine interest, but I must ask, why are you doing all of this? Most demons who gain power in Hell use it completely differently. Nar thought about the question, his answer molded by flashes of memory. My childhood taught me that true strength is not found in controlling others, but in protecting them. His face grew distant. I can't remember every detail of my past life, but I do remember that Charlie's smile softened because he was sincere. I wonder why the Princess of Hell finds that philosophy, as it's rare here. It's interesting, Naruto replied quietly. I've heard that your father isn't very well known for fostering community and providing protection. Charlie laughed uncomfortably. There are some philosophical differences between us. That's actually one of the reasons we wanted to meet you. I'm working on a project that may fit your methodology. Before she could respond, a disturbance came from Naruto's western edge, and then the distinctive sound of energy weapon firing echoed throughout the area. We're having problems. With a quick hand gesture, Naruto created a shadow clone, leaving Baji and Charlie speechless. You will be safely escorted out of the location by my clone. Charlie immediately responded. We can help. Naruto was already in motion, but this isn't our battle. Just a moment's pause at the edge of the roof. Stay with my clone if you wish to assist. Hell protect you, Vajai said. Until I take care of this, he said, leaping out of the building without waiting for a response. His body's apparent energy manipulation caused his dumb sense to decelerate. Charlie watched him go with unabashed interest. Have you noticed how he made that duplicate? That is not a typical manifestation of demonic activity, I said. Vajai responded coldly. The NAR clone smiled pityingly, adding that we're now stuck with said replica during an attack. The supervisor is only being cautious. Charlie's eyes widened. Mammon, the avarice overlord. He has elite forces. We have even more justification to depart. Vajai took Charlie's hand and persisted. This might get out of hand very fast, but Charlie was already dragging Vajai along as he headed for a better view. This is a great chance to observe how he manages conflict. Hurry up. When NAR arrived at the western barrier, a coordinated attack was underway. Mammon's army, sleek demons with at least 100 fighters with heavy weapons were hit at ONC. The Central Resource Repository comes next. Naruto ordered all non-combatants to evacuate to the shelter network. Prepare the medical staff to handle casualties. Naruto assessed the battlefield as Nixie departed with tactical accuracy that was both natural and influenced by a forgotten military experience. The attacker's disciplined synchronization suggested professional training rather than being opportunistic raiders. As he physically moved to the largest breach, he created 24 shadow clones and carefully positioned them to support weak spots. His demonic energy responded to his fighting focus as he moved, and it became evident as a golden red aura surrounding his body. When he appeared, the initial group of attackers faltered their confidence. The Eminence Mammon, overlord of the Second Circle, ordered a sleek, chrome-plated demon with a megaphone to advance from the invading force. We officially declare these areas to be expansion territory. Give up your possessions and swear fealty or risk being eliminated. NAR's voice reverberated throughout the battlefield as he declared. Last chance. There is no need for more bloodshed if you leave now. Hardened. I'm in charge of this territory. This is not your overlord's territory. Defense? The Chrome Demon laughed. With what power? You are a novelty, an upstart. Mammon has ruled his circle for millennia. I don't require authority, Nar stated plainly. Just decide. He disarmed the chrome demon and tossed him easily through the broken wall as he suddenly bounded forward with unfathomable speed. The attackers in the area unleashed fire and energy weapons, creating a web of damaging beams aimed at Nurda's location. Even the defending residents, who had seen Nurda's abilities before, were shocked by what happened. He slid between the beams with a grace and fluidity that seemed to defy physics. Every movement is precise and efficient. He used concentrated chakra in his palms to deflect energy when direct avoidance was not an option. He had been honing this skill through recovered muscle memory. As their target refused to fall, or even slow, the invaders' well-organized formation began to fall apart. Each replica fights as skillfully and resolutely as the original. Nar himself pushed the center of the attacking troops, locating his target while coordinating from a floating platform while looking for their commander, a tall, aristocratic demon in business attire, each with a separate communication device in its various arms. The commander found it fascinating because Nurda was approaching without showing any signs of fear. Additionally, each shadow clone would emerge to engage each unit that gathered. Forecasts. This information will please Mammon. Nurda became angry when he was casually called an asset. Is this what it is? An examination? Everything is an assessment of acquisition, the commander said easily. Mammon accumulates enormous wealth. You are AAA grade because of your abilities and knowledge of territorial management. The electricity surrounding Nurda grew stronger, and his eyes narrowed. The ghostly silhouette of 2 stories is becoming more distinct. I am not something that can be acquired. He used one hand to adjust his glasses while the others continued to plan the fight. Everyone has a cost. Mammon is an expert at finding it. One device had a button that he pressed. Perhaps this will clarify the parameters of the negotiation. Behind Nar, a section of the wall blasted inward, and a massive figure, a demon, rose from the dust. I picture a smiling operator piloting battle mech. The machine's arms ended in revolving cannons that immediately struck a residential neighborhood. The commander casually explained, "Give yourself over to Mammon's service, or we'll show your protected citizens the price of refusing." The threat caused something inside Nar to snap, a mixture of growing rage and a protective impulse that was closely linked to his broken history. A vivid memory surfaced. Concentric rings of pain filled the eyes. A village turned into a pit, a declaration that suffering would impart knowledge to the globe. You believe that intimidating defenseless individuals will make me. Send it in. Nurda's voice became louder and more powerful, and the commander's confidence wavered when he saw the sudden change in Nurda's energy signature. That's a mistake you won't live to repeat. He gave the mech pilot the order. Fire! Through his communicator. The battle mecha's formidable armaments targeted the residential zone, but the attack was never fully executed. Nurda roared so loudly that it seemed to rock the foundations of hell. Stretch your arm. Out of his back, glowing with crimson light, spectral chains exploded, each ending in a sharp point that fired unerringly toward the mech, piercing its armor like paper, a manifestation of the Uzumaki clan's unique technology now infused with demonic power, immobilizing its weapons and encircling its limbs. Nurda pulled the massive machine forward with a vicious tug, toppling it at his feet, and the commander gaped in surprise, despite the appearance of calm conversation. Forgotten. Nar approached carefully, still wearing shackles on his back, and inquired, "What are you?" The commander motioned for the chains to fly toward his platform, wrap around it, and drag him to the ground. Following the capture of their captain and the rendering of their most potent weapon inoperable, the remaining invaders began a haphazard withdrawal, with K and whirling around him like guardian snakes. Someone who keeps his word. I intend to fulfill my vow to keep these individuals secure. This land is not for sale, conquest, or compromise. He was kneeling among the rubble of his platform, securely bound by chains. Give Mammon a message. The defeated commander nodded in surprise, his corporate assurance turning to genuine fear. Nar unfastened the chains that held him, but he kept his menacing stance until the commander fled after his fleeing troops. After the excitement of the battle subsided, Naruto realized He reabsorbed the chains slowly and painstakingly, calming the visible aura around him. He instructed the closest defenders to check for casualties and give civilian medical needs top priority before starting to fix the breaches. A startled silence fell around him. The occupants of the defending gazed at the manifestation of chains that were still encircling his body in a protective manner, a power they had never seen before. The feelings of awe and veneration that took the place of their usual cordial respect. Their work, Naruto saw familiar faces approaching. His clone escorted the princess and her guardian companion, and Charlie could barely contain her excitement as they approached. She had witnessed the entire battle from a strategic position, despite Vaj's constant cautions about safety. "That was amazing," she said, practically bouncing with excitement, while Vajai remained more cautious, saying, "Those chains, that speed. Power has never shown up like that in my experience." Even so, she couldn't hide her impression. "Your defense strategy was successful by concentrating force on leadership targets and reducing civilian losses." Nar nodded in appreciation and dismissed his clone. "It wasn't just me. Everyone in this room helped with the defense." He examined the wreckage with a worried expression. "But Mammon won't give up after just one try. As his leader stated, this was merely a test. Mammon is tenacious," Charlie confirmed. "He pursues something assiduously after determining it as a desired asset." "You know," she said thoughtfully, "this might be the perfect time to discuss that project I mentioned." Vajai shot her. Naruto said simply, "Then we'll be ready." Charlie looked at him with growing interest, and despite the fact that he had just demonstrated the kind of power that would make him a major overlord, his whole focus was on the welfare of his community. "No bloating, no power drew," NK declared, simply out of practical concern for those he was protecting. "Redemption in hell?" Naruto said, his gaze shifting from courteous attention to sincere amazement. "Is that even feasible?" Charlie's eyes glowed with his usual passion as he said, "That's the big question. I run a hotel, the Happy Hotel, though some call it the Hazbin Hotel, with a very special mission. We're working to rehabilitate demons to help them find redemption and ascend to heaven rather than face extermination. My dad suspects I'm crazy. I think there's a way to salvation for anyone who wants to work for it, but I laugh at the idea." Something in her words struck a deep chord with Naruto, bringing back another memory fragment of standing in front of a red-haired man with strange eyes, discussing the possibility of Brea King's cycles of hatred and finding true peace. "I believe that too," he said quietly. "I'm not sure my path leads to heaven," he acknowledged. "My soul seems different." Vajai broke the silence, her suspicious nature not completely convinced. "If you believe in redemption, why build a power base here instead of working toward your own?" Was a reasonable question that Naruto carefully considered. She asked, and the angel that appeared pointed to the neighborhood beyond him, more interested in classifying me than in guiding me. "But I can help others find better paths even here." "That's exactly what we're trying to do at the hotel, offering therapy, support, and doable steps toward redemption." Shaw Arley couldn't contain her excitement any longer. She took a deep breath before proposing that we work together. "Your community could be a perfect halfway point for demons who aren't ready for the hotel's full program but who want to escape the worst of hell's cycles." Vajai looked skeptical, but "I would need to see this hotel. I would need to see your methods before committing to anything formal." "Absolutely," Charlie smiled. Didn't object outright, which Charlie interpreted as tacit approval. "Take this as an official invitation to visit at your convenience," where in Pentagram's city central circle, she produced a business card with flourished pink and gold with little cartoon versions of herself and the hotel staff. And Nar accepted the card with a smile that softened his demonic features. "Are you sure about this? We still know very little about him and that power he displayed." "That's precisely why I'm sure." Charlie whispered anxiously in response to Vajai's request for medical supplies, especially as they were finalizing arrangements. Now I need to help my people rebuild after this attack. Charlie nodded sympathetically. Of course. Perhaps we could send some supplies in the interim. A sign of good faith between possible partners, Gerda said. Charlie gave her a quick kiss on the cheek before turning back to Nar. Just promise me you'll be careful. Powerful allies make powerful enemies. Vajai sighed, recognizing Charlie's unbridled enthusiasm. It's settled then. Well, send supplies tomorrow. Did you see those chains? The energy signature. He's exactly what the prophecy described, obeying with power from beyond Hell's normal systems. If anyone can help prove my rehabilitation theory. Charlie gladly accepted Nuda's offer to have shadow clones safely return them to their transportation as they prepared to depart, but Vagji remained protective, suggesting that she was still not entirely convinced of his dependability. Following their departure, Nuda turned his attention back to the community recovery efforts, and Nixie arrived with a damage report after organizing the initial assessment. Structural damage to the Nar answered, Good, and nodded with relief. Assemble repair crews and equally distribute the remaining medical supplies. Was that the Princess of Hell, after all? In the West Quadrant, there were 14 injuries but no fatalities. Nixie was incredulous when she reported that everyone had arrived at shelters prior to the heavy weapons deploying since the early warning system had been successful. Apparently so, and she wants to work with us. The princess whose father literally rules this place seems different from what you'd expect. According to Nerdu in Hell, if anything looks too good to be true, it usually is, although occasionally there are exceptions. He recalled Charlie's strong belief in redemption, which seemed completely out of place in Hell but incredibly similar to his own redeemed ideals. I'll go to her hotel. I want to see what she's creating. As darkness descended on the area, Nar retreated to his private quarters, a simple building he'd insisted on leaving. He resided in opulent resident housing despite his leadership position. In order to process Ori pieces and communicate with the vestiges of Nine Beasts' existence within him, he sat cross-legged on the floor within and went into the meditative state that had been his nighttime practice. From the shattered desert of his past trips, the mental terrain had transformed into a huge plain under a crimson sky. Pieces of recollection had come together to form more cohesive structures, albeit they were still incomplete. There was still the great gate in the center, but it had also changed. It was more well-defined and less damaged, and he could see seals along the length of its structure that tugged at his recollection without fully disclosing their meaning. 9 beasts. To his amazement, a low rumbling replied him as he spoke into the silence, hoping for some connection but not anticipating a full response. Although it wasn't quite words, there was a definite recognition of his existence. A sliver of crimson energy emerged from outside the gate, circled Nar like a curious animal before disappearing. We're both changing, Nar whispered to the presence he felt. This place is affecting us differently than I expected. Another, slightly more powerful rumble vibrated throughout the mindscape. The gate creaked open, a little wider than before. Nar approached the gate and felt its surface, feeling encouraged. I brought the chains into my life today. They made me think of my mom's approach, although unique. Embarrassed to be talking to what might merely be a memory of his former partner, Demonic hesitated. I'm building something here, Nine Beast. Protecting others the way we used to. But I'm still not sure why I'm here. What was the result? The gate closed when he touched it, and he had a glimpse of what lay beyond. The emptiness had been replaced by a massive, coiled form that was either sleeping or inactive. A flood of confused recollections hit him before he could process what he was seeing. Filled his thoughts. Beyond the horizon is a battlefield. The earth itself was split and broken. The faces of friends fell. Tears were streaming down the cheeks of a pink-haired woman as she poured healing chakra into a fatal wound. A pale woman drifted above, her third eye wide. A proclamation that every chakra ought to be brought back to its original location. Anguish, sacrifice, and a final strategy that required 9 beasts and his own remaining might. Darkness, light, and judgment. With a gulp, Nar returned to body consciousness. The meditation was broken by the memory fragment's intensity. His face was dripping sweat onto the floor, and he was on his hands and knees, panting. A war, he mumbled as reality set in. We died in a war, protecting everything. The details were annoyingly vague, but the emotional impact was clear. Through perseverance and sacrifice, peace was ultimately achieved at great cost. A knock on his door interrupted more reflection. Upon opening it, I discovered. Uncomfortably, a young demon messenger moves from foot to foot. Naruto groaned as the messenger hesitantly stated. Forgive the intrusion, sir. But we've received reports of unusual activity at our northern boundary. Residents described seeing a shadow with antlers moving just outside our perimeter. Some said it was watching and collecting information. A shadow with antlers? Yes, sir. These were found during an inquiry by patrol personnel. The messenger held out a small box of what appeared to be little electronic devices hidden in various locations along the wall. Naruto recognized that it was surveillance gear, although one with an odd design. Increase patrols at all borders, but refrain from engaging with observers until they behave violently. Note any sightings and report them straight to me or Nixie. As the messenger departed, Naruto considered this new finding. Mammon's assault, the princess's visit, and the mysterious surveillance interest in his. The area was expanding rapidly. He wanted to accelerate his plans, strengthen defenses, create strategic links, and, above all, understand his own evolving capabilities before they were tested again. Tomorrow, he decided to visit this Hazbin hotel and evaluate Charlie's rehabilitation effort firsthand. If her goals aligned with his, as she suggested, an alliance may be beneficial to both. If so, he had long since learned to trust his instincts on people's sincere intentions. The following morning, Naruto prepared for his journey to Pentagram City. He had never ventured outside the third circle since his awakening in Hell, and the prospect of venturing into unknown waters presented both risk and promise. Nixie initially protested that it was unsafe for him to go alone, but Naruto persisted. Additionally, if Mammon tries another, it will finish here. He had stated, I'll move faster and attract less attention solo. Our strongest death is what we need. As he stood at the territory's main gate, Naruto addressed the few council members who had gathered to bid him farewell. I will be back tomorrow. Until then, keep up basic security procedures and keep working on reconstruction. Their coordinator of education took the initiative. I apologize, sir, but there are stories circulating regarding the combat from yesterday concerning your new abilities. He adjusted his spectacles. He said firmly, I'm still the same Naruto who's been working alongside all of you. Not so with prophecies. Our goals remain the same. Creating a safe sanctuary. As demons, we are able to live fearlessly. As he passed by, Nar had witnessed the greater difference, the muttering, and the rare person falling to their knees. It reminded him of broken memories of being regarded more like a savior than a human, which greatly unsettled him. His words seemed to reassure the council, but he could see the expressions on their faces, a mixture of wonder, optimism, and doubt, that suggested his denial hadn't totally destroyed the growing mythology surrounding him. After getting the final instructions, Naruto departed, navigating the Chaw with the aid of shadow clones serving as scouts and his enhanced speed. Odic lands between Pentagram City and his realm. The landscape changed as he moved from the Third Circle's industrial wastelands to more populated areas. As he approached the center of Hell, he could clearly see Pentagram City itself, a huge city with a skyline that, when viewed from above, formed a perfect pentagram. AP is made up of tall skyscrapers and neon lights. It is a mix of human metropolis and demonic beauty. A structure that dwarfed all others rose at its center. Lucifer's palace is a symbol of strength and authority that can be seen throughout the city, Nar walked cautiously around the periphery, aware that perhaps his reputation preceded him. He wore a hooded cloak that concealed his characteristic facial tattoos and hair, making his attire more conservative than usual. The Hazbin Hotel was easier to find than expected thanks to its gaudy signs and distinctive features. Cheerful architecture stood out amid the general sense of decadence and sorrow in the city. From the other side of the street, Nar noted the building's hospitable exterior and the hotel's upper windows paused, and Nero thought he saw a shadow moving behind draperies, followed by a brief explosion of radioactive. The sensation vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and Nero wasn't sure if he had imagined it. Putting aside his discomfort, he climbed the stairs and pulled open the hotel's entrance. A strange feeling pricked his augmented senses as he approached the entryway, a sense that something strong and ancient is keeping an eye on you. Front doors. The lobby was a study in contradictions, with decor that is really happy but fighting against underlying chaos, like hope fighting to survive in a setting meant to destroy it. No one was at the registration counter, but voices came from an adjacent lounge area. Nar yelled, "Hello?" taking off his hood as he went deeper inside. The voices instantly fell silent, and then there was a quick click of heels on hardwood. Charlie appeared in the doorway, her entire face beaming with recognition. "You came," she said, practically leaping with joy. A small but varied group of people entered the lounge. "Everyone, our special guest is here." Before Naruto could respond, Charlie took his hand and dragged him toward the lounge with uncontrollable zeal. "I simply mentioned you to everyone." Perfect timing. A tall, slender spider demon sat next to Vajai, who was standing with her arms folded and her visage guarded but not as hostile as it had been when they first met. Dramatically across a couch, a winged cat-like demon nursed a drink at the bar with deep indifference, and a little cyclops demon with frenzied activity rushed around straightening already spotless cushions. Charlie said, "Everyone," with a theatrical flourish. She looked at him curiously and hesitated before saying, "This is Naruto Uzumaki." He smiled slightly and said, "Just Nar is fine." Charlie corrected with ease, "Nar." In the third circle, he made an amazing Keeman nitty that perfectly matches our. "I must admit, Blondie, the rumors didn't do you guys justice," Vag said. "Angel dust." Act. "What?" Angel voiced an innocent protest. "I'm just being cordial. Isn't that what Charlie yaps about all the time?" Charlie didn't let anything stop him. "Welcome to our hotel family, Naruto. Vajai is already familiar to you. This is our first resident patient, Angel Dust. Our housekeeper, Nifty, and... But your energy is so strange, all swirly and divided. Nice to meet you all. Charlie's told me about your rehabilitation project." Nifty flew over to examine Naruto with unsettling intimacy, and Husk groaned without taking his eyes off his glass. She circled him quickly and said, "Ooh, you're clean for someone from the lower circles." Nar blinked at her assessment, amazed by the small demon's insight. "Did she say that it's a total waste of time?" Husk whispered from the bar. "Words." Charlie gave him an instinctive reprimand, then turned back to Nar. "Ignore him. The implementation details are still being worked out in the early stages. For example, the fact that no one wants atonement." Angel looked at his gloved nails and offered to help. Charlie's smile faltered for a moment, then returned. "Since growth takes time, Nar, I'm very looking forward to your visit. 4D, your neighborhood might be the perfect place for transformation." Her genuine devotion was evident to Nar, and it reminded him of his own idealistic disposition, as glimpses of his past suggest. He has often encountered the same skepticism. "I would like to know exactly how your rehabilitation process operates." The idea seems intriguing, but the mood of the room abruptly changed. He was interrupted by the smell of burning radio tubes, a slight dip in temperature, and a faint. The background was staticky jazz music, and even Angel Dust sat up straighter as the other hotel guests tensed up considerably. Oh, it looks like our last employee is joining us, Charlie announced, forced brightness, and the timing was perfect. A tall, lean figure appeared, immaculately dressed in a crimson suit with pinstripes, and a permanent smile was fastened under bright red eyes. Nerda was immediately alerted by the force emanating from the newcomer. "So this is our esteemed visitor," the demon said in a voice accompanied by old-fashioned radio effects. Unnaturally fluid, he sat down beside Nerda and shook his hand firmly. "His name is Alistair, the radio demon. It's a pleasure to meet you." Nar stayed composed despite the unexpected proximity, sensing that sure I would uncomfortably placate this strange demon in some way. "Is Waki Nerda?" Indeed. Indeed. I've heard so much about the famous Maelstrom King." Charlie's excitement was a little strained as she explained that Alistair helped fund the motel. "He has been a tremendous help." Alistair's smile widened unbelievably. "You're building quite the reputation. Philosophical revolution, territorial expansion, and chains of manifestation. Haha, so amusing." Alistair's humorous speech had clear undertones. He didn't see Nerdo as a potential ally, but a fresh piece on some cosmic chessboard, a humorous diversion. "There's nothing like watching sinners work toward an impossible goal," brightly explained. "There's nothing like seeing sinners strive for an unachievable objective." Charlie winced a little and continued. "What a wonderful idea," Alistair said, spinning his microphone staff. "But after traveling through the rings, our guest might like to have a drink first." Before anyone could object, Alistair had led Nerdo toward the bar. Unexpectedly strong on the blonde's shoulder, he leaned forward and said, "I'm pretty interested in what your real angle might be," in a voice that was still audible over radio static. "After all, everyone has one," Alistar muttered between us business-minded individuals. "Power, territory, our princess's considerable influence," Nar said, staring directly into the radio demon's eyes. "Relationships are not always viewed as transactions." Alistair laughed, and the audience applauded. "You are delightful. Even in hell, such charming innocence remained." His smile never wavered, but his expression changed slightly. "A good piece of advice. There are rules in hell. Structures have been established over thousands of years. Those who interrupt them too soon often encounter resistance." "Is that dangerous?" calmly Nar asked. "A danger?" "No. No," Alistair's smile widened. "You, my friend who was on Fox, also promised to be the most fascinating show the world has ever seen." Charlie appeared beside them before Nerd could respond, seemingly oblivious to the tension or deliberately ignoring it. "I hope you're not monopolizing our guest, Alistair. You can show him so much. Don't think about it, my love." Alistair took a theatrical step backward. "Do not hesitate to continue your journey. I will simply watch from a safe distance." Charlie felt as he escorted Nar away. "I'm really excited to see how your performance turns out." Alistair's eyes followed them, assessing, calculating, and waiting. The threat posed by the radio demon was different from Mammon's straightforward acquisition attempt. It was more subdued and patient. The tour itself proved to be both aesthetically pleasing and ill-executed. Charlie guided Nerda through meticulously designed but largely unused therapeutic rooms, amusement areas, and educational spaces. Her explanation of the healing process led to an unexpected practical steps toward change, therapy, community service, developing empathy, making changes, Nerda asked after they identified those tendencies. Advanced knowledge of psychiatric healing paired with a naive belief in the innate desire for redemption of demons. She explained that the main challenge is helping patients see their own destructive behavior patterns, as many people are unaware of how their life's deeds contributed to their damnation. She described a classroom full of inspirational posters. Vajai, who had accompanied them on the tour, added with unexpected openness, "The problem is finding demons who actually want to change." While the program clearly struggled, her enthusiasm was infectious. "Most people are perfectly content with the freedoms of hell. Heaven has criteria for redemption. Souls can ascend if they truly transform. And they are carefully considered this issue. In my community, we've found that safety and stability often allow for reflection. Charlie's gaze expanded. That's why I think our projects could complement each other perfectly. You provide the stable environment that makes self-reflection possible, and we offer the structured path toward redemption for those ready to take that step. Nar was reminded of broken memories and a village that had provided him with security despite their fear of what he held, allowing him to develop kindness as opposed to animosity. Their conversation continued into dinner, where Nar observed the strange familial dynamic of the hotel staff. Despite their frequent arguments, they shared a genuine, if hesitant, bond. Even Alistair, whose intentions were still questionable, seemed to have taken a strange liking to Charlie's unflinching optimism. As the evening wore on, Vajai progressively relaxed her guard, even thoughtfully adding to the conversation about potential cooperation. There are advantages to being a laughingstock, she thought. We need procedures for moving residents from one place to another, consistent messaging about redemption opportunities, and protection. Naruto continued. Your hotel would be targeted if it were formally connected to my territory. Vajai responded dryly. We're already a target. Most overlords don't think it's worth the effort to destroy us. That will change if your rehabilitation actually starts to work, Naruto. Dad said as much himself. Success would threaten Hell's fundamental power structure. If demons are capable of redemption on their own. Everyone took in this implication, and the conversation paused. Angel thus broke the silence with typical disrespect. So, we're all basically if this actually works. Charlie, you made a great sales pitch. Not necessarily, Naruto said in a startling response. Charlie stared at him in growing amazement. I've been wanting to convey precisely that. Real change happens gradually, even though everyone wants an instant complete transformation. Meaningful change doesn't have to happen all at once. Little victories count. Another piece of recollection appeared. Speaking in front of dubious leaders, I argued that little efforts may eventually overcome seemingly insurmountable divides and that achieving peace required first believing it was possible. Nar, Charlie, and Vajai were on the hotel's roof garden as the evening wore on, gazing out at the neon-lit pentagram city skyline. The relative privacy allowed for more candid conversation, and Naruto began cautiously. There's something I've been wondering. You have extraordinary luxury and power because you are Lucifer's daughter. You might live in areas that are subject to luxury rules. Why not focus on atonement instead? Charlie smiled gently against the railing.